Jacob stepped through the glass doors of the most prestigious bank in Manhattan, his work boots scraping the polished floor. The harsh sound echoed in the silence of the lobby, and every head turned. A janitor, covered in dirt and exhaustion, had somehow made his way into a world where he didn't belong. But today, he was about to find out that the world he thought he knew was nothing like what he had imagined. Jacob had never been to a place like this. The marble floors beneath his work boots were so smooth they almost felt fake, and the light gleaming through the glass walls of the lobby reflected off every polished surface, blinding him. He had spent the last few hours gathering the courage to even step foot inside. He didn't belong here, but that wasn't his choice. His daughter Lily was depending on him, and after months of constant struggle, Jacob needed to know something, anything, that could show him a glimpse of hope. At 34, Jacob had spent most of his life cleaning up after people. Literally. As a janitor, his days bled into each other. He worked in silence, invisible, doing everything he could to keep food on the table for Lily. But now, with overdue bills, rent looming, and a sense of being at the edge of exhaustion, he knew he had to do something different. And so, here he was, standing in the sleek lobby of one of Manhattan's most exclusive banks. The receptionist barely glanced at him as she raised an eyebrow, her expression dripping with dismissive curiosity. Jacob's heart raced, but his voice stayed steady. "I need to check my balance." He didn't care how he sounded. It didn't matter. All he needed was one solid answer, one thing that might prove that his hard work wasn't all for nothing. When she handed him the form to fill out, Jacob's fingers trembled as he pulled out the worn-out bank card from his pocket, crumpled and stained from years of use. The card had come in the mail months ago, and Jacob had hesitated to use it. It was too easy to assume it was a mistake. But when he and Lily had gone without food for the past few days, he knew he had no choice. The receptionist's eyes flickered with confusion as she examined the card. "This is from our bank," she murmured, her tone now laced with doubt. Still, she handed him the slip and motioned for him to sit in the waiting area. It wasn't long before the CEO, Nathaniel Pierce, a man who had always been a fixture of New York's elite, walked into the room. His confidence radiated off him, the power in his every step obvious. The polished shoes and designer suit. The watch that could probably pay for a year's worth of groceries in Jacob's neighborhood. Everything about Nathaniel screamed wealth, the kind Jacob had only dreamed of. But as Nathaniel glanced at Jacob, his lips curled into a mocking smile. Jacob wasn't one of the right kind of people, he knew that. The suit, the dirt, the eyes of judgment. But Jacob didn't care about any of that anymore. He had nothing left to lose. "Let me guess," Nathaniel said, his voice dripping with disdain as he looked Jacob up and down. "You're here to check the balance of an account you shouldn't even have access to." Jacob swallowed hard. He could feel the weight of judgment bearing down on him, but his voice rang out stronger this time. "I just want to check my balance." Nathaniel turned to the receptionist with a smirk, dismissing Jacob with a wave. But when he saw the number flash across the screen, his smile froze. $30 million. The balance seemed impossible. Jacob stood there, just as confused, as Nathaniel's face shifted from amusement to disbelief. Jacob had never been anything but a humble janitor, scraping by to raise his daughter. But now, with that number on the screen, his life would never be the same again. Not just because of the wealth, but because of the revelations that came with it. And Nathaniel, for the first time in his life, began to realize just how much more there was to success than money. As Jacob's story began to unfold, it wasn't just the figure on the screen that changed his life. It was the legacy of his wife, a woman whose love had carried him through years of hardship, now offering him an inheritance that would set his family free, if he could learn to embrace it. But this discovery was only the beginning. There was so much more to learn, about the money, about his own identity, and most importantly, about what kind of man he wanted to be moving forward. If you are hooked, in congratulations, because this story is about to get more interesting. Let know in the comments where you are watching from, and please like and subscribe. Now let us continue. The bank lobby swallowed him whole. Marble floors stretched endlessly, gold fixtures gleamed under crystal chandeliers, and everyone moved with a kind of confidence Jacob had never known. His work boots squeaked against the polished stone. He clutched the card tighter, feeling like a kid sneaking into his father's office. The receptionist's eyes swept over him, the paint-stained jeans, the calloused hands, the nervousness he couldn't hide. Her smile never reached her eyes. "I just need to check my balance," he said quietly. She glanced at the card, then back at him. Suspicion flickered across her face. Jacob's heart pounded. His daughter's face flashed in his mind, her laugh, her dreams, her future. Whatever judgment this woman held, it didn't matter. God had opened this door. Now he just had to walk through it. Nathaniel Pierce heard the commotion from his office. A janitor? With a platinum card? He descended the marble staircase, designer shoes clicking, unable to resist. "Let me handle this," he said, waving the receptionist aside. His smile was all condescension as he took Jacob's card, expecting to embarrass him quickly. He swiped it, glanced at the screen, then froze. The smile melted off his face like wax. $30 million. Nathaniel's hand trembled. He looked at Jacob, really looked at him, for the first time. The paint-stained janitor standing before him wasn't who he thought at all. Jacob's legs went weak. This couldn't be real. The lawyer's voice was gentle, but every word hit like a hammer. "Your wife set this up before she passed. A life insurance policy. She wanted to make sure your daughter would never struggle." Jacob's throat tightened. All those double shifts. The aching back. The nights he'd fallen asleep in his work clothes, too exhausted to shower. Sarah had known. She'd planned for this moment while he'd been killing himself just to survive. He wanted to laugh. He wanted to cry. He wanted to scream at the ceiling and ask God why he hadn't known sooner. Instead, he just sat there, staring at his calloused hands, the hands of a man who'd been provided for all along. Nathaniel couldn't stop watching him. Jacob hadn't changed. No victory dance. No arrogance. He just sat there, shoulders heavy with the weight of it all, asking quiet questions about his daughter's future. Something twisted in Nathaniel's chest. He'd spent his entire life surrounded by wealth, yet he felt hollow watching this janitor, this father, carry himself with more dignity than most millionaires he knew. When had Nathaniel last felt that kind of purpose? That kind of love? Jacob stood to leave, still wearing those paint-stained jeans. Still humble. Still real. And Nathaniel realized, money hadn't made Jacob rich. It had just revealed what was already there. The lawyer explained further. Sarah's policy included a trust fund for Lily, college security, everything Jacob had prayed for but couldn't provide alone. His wife had worked second jobs he'd never known about. Silent sacrifices. Quiet love. Guilt crashed over him first. Why hadn't he seen it? But then came something deeper, gratitude. Sarah's love hadn't ended with her last breath. It was still here, still providing, still protecting their daughter. Jacob wept. Jacob wouldn't waste Sarah's sacrifice on luxury. Her lessons ran too deep. He envisioned a charity in her name, supporting janitors, cleaners, invisible workers like him. People society overlooked but couldn't function without. "I want to help families like mine," he told the lawyer quietly. Nathaniel overheard. Something shifted in him watching Jacob plan to give rather than take. This wasn't about wealth anymore. It was about legacy. Purpose. Love made tangible. Jacob was building something that mattered. Nathaniel had built empires on power and prestige. But watching Jacob plan a foundation for forgotten workers shattered something inside him. He'd been so wrong. True wealth wasn't his penthouse or portfolio. It was Jacob's compassion, his purpose, his quiet strength. "Let me help," Nathaniel offered, voice stripped of arrogance for once. Jacob nodded, extending his calloused hand. In that handshake, Nathaniel found what decades of success never gave him, meaning. The foundation's ribbon fell away. Cameras flashed. Jacob stood beside Nathaniel, two worlds united by purpose. Lily beamed from the front row, her future secure, her mother's love immortalized. Nathaniel had once mocked men like Jacob. Now he worked alongside him, funding dreams for invisible workers everywhere. Jacob remained humble. Nathaniel, transformed. They'd learned the same truth. Real wealth isn't what you have. It's what you give away.
Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this, you would surely enjoy the next one. Like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss out on tomorrow's story. See you soon.